Welcome to the Kicking It with the Coaches podcast. I am your host, Coach Chae. Have Coach Chae Small with me today in the house. We're going to talk to her about her story and ask her some questions here in a few. But first, this show is brought to you today by Brain Jerk Entertainment. Welcome to the Brain Jerk area, just a little more than you think you need. I want to give these guys a shout out for last night. We were just talking about it. Had a great time at the comedy show. So shout out to Brain Jerk for putting that on and the after party they had. And it was a great night, great people out there. They're doing a lot for the community. They got a Pac-Man tournament coming up. Bring the kids out, come play Pac-Man. All types of stuff for kids, adults, all types of entertainment, comedy, podcast, everything you can think of. Follow these guys on Facebook and Instagram, and make sure you check out brainjerkentertainment.com. Show is also brought to you today by Kennedy Health and Wellness. We're your one-stop shop for everything wellness, from body care and candles to coaching services. Make sure you check us out, kennedyhealthwellness.com. You can also find us on social media. We also want to give a shout out to our sponsors today. These are some incredible people and businesses in our community. Each one of these places I have a special connection in some way with, so it's really awesome that these places are supporting the show and sponsoring us. So I want to shout out to Amaya's Fresh Mexican Grill, Little Brown Jug, Deb's Floral Designs, Lane's Pizzeria, IWR, Muggsy Sports Grill and Bar, Monroe Sports Center Bowling, Nerdy Designs, and our newest sponsor, All Hard Athletics. So just before we jump in, want to update you guys on a few things you've probably seen recently. We have a sports camp coming up May 6th and 7th at the Opportunity Center with the ALCC. We have Coach Jones, and I have a few other coaches joining that I'm going to announce this week. I'm telling you guys, we got some awesome coaches coming to join that. It's a free camp to the community. So kids ages 8 to 18, I believe it is what we put on there, can come out. We'll have you split up between a youth group and a high school group, and you guys can come out and get some great work. And again, no charge for that. So coming out and get some work with us. We also have our sports performance class launching on May 13th. That's at 1817 CrossFit. Want to shout them out. We're working with them to offer a weekly sports performance class. Athletes can come in. Very affordable. It's going to be great work. All the stuff we do at Overtime Athletes will be involved in that training. So make sure you guys check that out. Our quote of the day is, "Experience is a hard teacher because it gives us the test first and the lesson after." And that's by Vernon Law. I believe he was a pitcher in Major League Baseball. Don't quote me on that. But I think this was a good quote today because our guest today was in her first year of coaching last year. I know what that's like. I know what it was like just last year going down to youth coaching for my first year. And in life and coaching, sports, everything, it works kind of the opposite of school, if that makes sense. So you get tested first and you learn what you were supposed to learn from the test after. So that's why we chose that quote today. Before we jump in with Coach, our read of the week. Some of you guys see me post this, gave me some feedback. I appreciate it. I've been starting to read it. This book is explosive. It's incredible. Shoe Dog by about Phil Knight, the creator of Nike. This is his memoir. This is an awesome book. If you're a Nike fan or just entrepreneur, coach, anybody who's just trying to persevere and learn just how to be resourceful and be perseverant and those sort of things, I'm telling you, this is a great book right here. So make sure you guys go check this out. So, Coach, introduce us. Tell us a little bit about yourself and who you are, your journey.
Well, hi everyone. I am Chae Small, Monroe JV girls basketball coach. This was my first year coaching at the high school. I've actually been coaching mostly volleyball since I've been 19 years old. After my freshman year of college, I went to Owens for a year.
Shout out to Owens.
Yeah, Sunny Denny, what's up? And from there, yeah, it's just I just picked it up and just kept rolling.
So are you from Monroe?
I am born and raised. I graduated from Monroe in 2008. Played three sports. Yeah, three sports: basketball, volleyball, and I ran track.
Very nice.
Yeah.
That's a lost art today. So very nice. Glad for the kids that are listening to hear that somebody was able to balance three sports with school, with friends, with everything. So that's big time though.
Yeah.
That's nice. So did you play, so you said basketball, track, and what else?
Volleyball.
Volleyball.
Yeah.
Okay. And you said you've coached volleyball and basketball?
Yep. I've coached my first team. I coached with my college teammate, Brooke Hearn, at TVC, Toledo Volleyball Club. We coached a 10U team. And then from there, I think I took a couple years off and when I came home from college, I started playing rec ball, and one of my
Okay.
teammates, Bree Russo, she was coaching at Ida at the time. Needed a JV coach, so I started coaching there.
Over
For
at Ida.
at Ida, yep,
Okay.
for 3 seasons, I believe. Um, so after I left Ida, I went to the middle school in Monroe, and I was there for 4 or so seasons. And D Ray talked me into coaching basketball. So I did 2 basketball seasons. Then COVID hit, and then life hit, and this is my first year back since COVID and all
Okay.
that. Yeah,
So my mistake at the beginning of the show. So you have quite a bit of experience then.
little
This
bit.
is just your okay, that
Yeah,
makes sense.
yeah.
So why did D-Ray, why was he what was his persuade or what was he trying to do to get you? Like why did he want you to come in? What was
Um,
the
I
he
honestly,
saw something in you, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, like I was telling you earlier, his first year as AD was my freshman year. So I mean, he knew me from back when, and I don't know if he knew uh how I would be as a coach, but as
Okay.
an athlete, I was what's the word? I was pretty intense, and
Okay.
like I took the games that was in pretty serious. And I don't know if that was what he needed at the time or if he just really needed a coach or what, but
Either way, right?
either way, he got me into coaching after I said no so many times. But yeah, so then we went from there.
So out of curiosity, did you want to coach volleyball and then just kind of got so happened to get, kind of moved into basketball? Was it like, oh, I really like, was that your first love was coaching volleyball type of deal?
I knew early on uh, that I was done with basketball after high school. So I think in a way for coaching both sports that I was trying to kind of live vicariously through the athletes because I wasn't really done with the sport, but I
Okay.
knew that playing competitively was out of the
Right. It
question.
was over
So
with.
yeah,
That makes sense.
yeah,
That makes sense. That's some good honesty though. That's a good assessment, honest assessment of your coaching, why you do it and why you got into it and how it started and
yeah.
all those sort of things. So who were you motivated by? Who were you motivated by growing up when you were playing sports and in school?
So uh, growing up, I had a lot of my grand both of my grandfathers. They were crazy sports fans. So
Okay.
um we watched a lot of sports. So I grew up watching, track with Flojo and basketball, Lisa Leslie. Volleyball I didn't really get exposed to until I started playing intramural in the 5th grade.
Okay.
So the only time I saw volleyball was during the Olympics, but my dad's father, his family, they're from Romulus. So
Okay.
yeah, so the Davises, so Terry Mills and John Long are my cousin and uncle. So we
It is a small world. I'll tell you what. Shout
yeah.
out to them because
So
wow,
yeah,
small world. Them guys are. I coached at Romulus
yeah,
for 4 years or 3.5 years. Them guys are legends in
yeah,
Romulus.
yes.
And
So
when they come around, it's like legendary
yeah.
around there. Jerseys hung up in the sports
Yep.
complex. Like that's awesome. I
Yeah.
did not know that.
So
Fun
yeah.
fact.
So we got exposed to the game
Yeah.
early. Um, so it was just like the competitiveness of all the sports and that really just got me.
Drove you.
Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And you dropped a few people in there that you looked up to
Yeah.
growing up. I believe you said, who'd you drop from the WNBA?
Lisa Leslie.
Lisa. Yep. Okay. Very
Yep.
nice. So when you're so now that you're coaching at Monroe, what's your hardest let me rephrase this. You've been at how many different schools now,
Two.
coached? Two different schools, Ida,
Yes.
Monroe?
Yep.
What's your hardest challenge or largest challenge at Monroe, do you think?
Trying to let go of the past from what we had, and my girls got so sick of me comparing my team and our success to trying to rebuild and trying to give them that edge that we had.
Okay.
Um, I think that me trying to, like I said, or trying to live vicariously through them is been the hardest thing, I think.
Trying to break that, you mean?
Yeah, trying to give them back what we had, like
Yeah.
the competitiveness and
The problem is it's that you want them, we as coaches, we want them so badly to be successful,
right,
and we want them to want it as bad as I always tell the kids. It's in football at times we get stuck in situations where it's like I can't want it more than y'all
right,
to win at the
right,
highest level. Like I can do so much, but y'all play the
right.
games, you guys train, you have to want it more than the coaches, more than the guy or girl across from you.
Yep.
And no, I definitely understand that.
Yeah.
So do you find coaching today's generation, like, do you find that to be the most challenging part, or what do you find the most challenging
The
part?
most challenging part is these so kids these days, they're more mental than they are physical. So it's trying to, oh, what's the word I want to use? Trying to convince them that they have it and that they have the potential to be, as good as these
Mm,
top teams, and
that's big.
pushing them to
That's big.
get it there. That is what it is. And knowing that these kids have it, but they've experienced so much adversity at their ages playing
Hmm.
sports for these schools, and against these schools,
Right.
it's like hard, especially because when and here I go comparing the two generations. When we were playing, like we were beating the Bedfords and the Skyline. I mean, well, no, not Skyline. Sorry, because Skyline wasn't a thing when we were in school. Um, Celine and Ann
But you were
Arbor
beating those
Hurons. Yeah,
caliber
and
teams. Right.
So it's like we walk into the gym and it's like, oh, we have Bedford today. Shoot. And whereas to where
Been
we
there.
would walk in and we'd be like, we got Bedford today.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Yep. Let's
Yeah.
go.
It was like that extra
Definitely.
motivation. Like you always wanted to make those teams look
Yeah.
crazy on the other end of the spectrum.
Do you think it's do you think it's like the kids lack competitive nature because they're lazy, or do you think it's a self-doubt thing, or do you think it's a little bit of both?
I wouldn't know,
Or what do you think it is?
because I'll say with my group of girls, it would be the lack of experience.
Okay.
Because like I said, I had 6 girls on my JV team this year that hadn't played competitive ball before. So with the teams that we play, they have AAU groups that they can keep, they
That
play
play year
together,
round.
and yeah. And we don't have that. So I think it's a lot of the self-doubt and knowing that, the Celines and the Bedfords and the Dexters, like they
That they're
have
doing that stuff.
exactly.
Right.
So it's been just that and trying to make sure that, that they got
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, definitely. And that's something Coach Bates talked about. Shout out to Coach Bates. I know he listens, the Red Storm head coach, but he talked about how his hardest challenge is getting young men to believe in themselves, to believe that they can accomplish and do something today. Because we talked about it and said most people's go-to nowadays is like, well, these kids and their phones and blah, all the garbage that's like surface shit, but it's not like the real stuff.
Right.
It's not the real problems or the real, everybody likes to say what's easy and on the surface and not really dig in and tap into like what's really going on and try to fix it. And like, that was something that he said that makes me really, and then you just reiterated it, but it makes me really think that that's a lot of the core, hearing different coaches, that's a lot of the core problem is, we have to do as coaches, parents, teachers, we have to do a better job at building our young people in general, but our student athletes up to believe that they can do things, believe that they can accomplish things.
Right.
That's why I'm so big on like stuff like this with Phil Knight. And a lot of people, they know, like I have posters in my room and pictures of like, one's got Kobe, one's got Jordan. I got a LeBron, of all 3 of them together. There's another couple entrepreneurs, and I got all types of stuff, because I think you got to learn from those people in their journey. And I think the more you understand what people have been through to get to where they're at, I think the more you go, well, my life might have its challenges too, but like, man, so did that.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I try to always preach to kids is like, I don't know. There's a lot of ways we go about it,
Yeah.
right? Trying to get them to believe in themselves. But I do think that's one reason why stuff like coaches and then just people because this generation especially idolizes people heavy.
Mhm.
Their Instagram, they love the Instagram stars and these. So I think it's super important for those people that they idolize on our level and on a celebrity level
Yeah.
to it's important for those people to put positive things out there and encouraging things and let those kids know like you can
Yeah.
do what I'm doing or what you want to do and be at
Right.
my level of success or whatever the
Right.
case is. I think it's super important.
Yeah.
That's why I share stuff like that all the
Yeah.
time.
That's what. So we had Celine. Our first or second game of the season, and they absolutely embarrassed us. Like
Happens.
it was wild. I think the score was like 57-10 or something, just outrageous. But they came to our gym, and the second time we ended up losing, but only by 10 points. And it was
Competitive.
yeah, and it was so late in the season, and I had to like sit down and like you said with the Instagram thing, like I had to make a post to like tell them like, yeah, we lost,
Right.
but you guys
Right.
busted your asses.
Right.
And you really showed them that they, they don't
Yep.
have it. And I was like, and that's what I have been trying to reiterate to you guys the whole season.
You just want to see them grow and develop.
Exactly.
Be better than you were the first
Yep.
time you played the
Yep.
team.
And I think after that Celine game, like a lot of the girls, like the confidence went here.
So that's kind of one of my questions on here is how did you keep your team motivated and checked in all year through the adversity? So besides, the Instagram posts or the things to kind of hype them up, what are some other ways that you took it upon yourself to keep the girls checked in this year?
Well, it was hard. I'll say that much because I'm not used, and I don't say this like in a cocky way, but I'm not used to losing.
Right. I understand for sure.
I told them earlier, I think between my 7th grade to my senior year, we may have lost 12 games.
That's not many.
No.
For that
So
span of time.
exactly.
Wow. For basketball, especially.
Yes. And I'm like, so this is different for me too. So I'm learning with you guys too. So at one point,
that's awesome though. Not to interrupt you,
Yeah,
but that's
no.
awesome to reiterate to the kids that's like I can't explain how huge that is for you to tell the girls or the kids that I'm learning with you as we do this, because that makes the kids feel like you're not above them.
Right.
It makes you feel as though you're with them.
Right.
Right. That's awesome. I love that, coach.
And it worked a bit. But then we started doing affirmations, weekly game goals, team goals, and it was working. It worked. It changed a little bit, but then it got more repetitive for them than it did purposeful. So it kind of just like we got to here and then we just
kind of plateaued a little bit.
Yeah. And then that sling game happened and it went up, but I think that a lot of I lost my thought. But no, I think that like keeping them motivated with outer influence, you have the boys that are making fun of how they lost and all this stuff. Like it was hard to get them away from that throughout the season, which didn't help a lot,
There's more. The problem, the hard part is there's more outside noise nowadays than ever. I mean, I've had to tell my kids. I've told them after an ass whooping, I've went to them and been like, they're gonna make fun of you at school tomorrow. They're gonna give you shit.
Right.
They're gonna tell you suck. They're gonna tell you guys you're not gonna win again. All this other garbage. But I think one thing that we always try to do, and I'm sure you guys did too, is we try to at least keep like it's us. I hate to be cliche, but like us against the world mentality where the outside noise, that's them.
Yep.
That's not what's in our locker room, in our field, our field house, right? They're not part of the family as far as, they might be part of the Eagle family at Mason, but if you're hating on our football team, you're not really a part of our football family.
Right.
So I think trying to just keep them together. And I think like Coach Jones always talks about how, he always he's got to make it a point to make sure kids always see development. And I'm learning to be better about that on the football field and off of the field. I'm very good at doing that in the weight room, and I'm learning how to take my weight room strategies and kind of move it off
Yeah.
to like, hey man, I seen you got your grades up. And
Right.
I've always done that to a degree, but now I've made that a huge priority to like let them know every step of development on and off the
Yeah.
field is like awesome.
Yeah.
And I think that motivates them quite a bit. But sounds like it was a challenging season, but a good one.
Yeah.
So are you going to be back next year? Is that your plan? If
That
brought
is my
back?
plan. Now, whether or not D-Ray and Mason want me back, that is totally up to them. I hope you guys do bring me back.
So
Yeah.
you do want to be back,
Yeah.
though.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What do you have any long-term plans for coaching, or you just want to
No,
see this
I
thing out and
just-
go?
I just flying.
Just go.
Yep.
Just coach. Always coach and
Yep.
stay coaching. I love it, though. I love it.
Yep.
So let's see here. What do we got? How did you handle parent communication this year? Did you have any situations, and how did you handle it?
Mostly it was good. I've had some of my parents previously. I think I had 2 or 3 families when I was coaching at the middle school. So they all knew me and they all knew how
Okay. How you operated
yeah.
your coaching style.
Yep. I didn't have many issues. There was
That's good though. That's smooth.
yeah. I mean, and if there was an issue, you know, I'm very, very available. Whether it's through my social media, you know, I
Right.
got my watch, my phone, like everything. Like I'm always answering.
You seem very forward. That's why I
Yeah.
asked. I just asked because sometimes it can be a tough situation
Yeah.
to deal with parents, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Just
no.
because of the different circumstances, and you know they're not. And I'm not hating on any parents out there, but they're not there every day at
No,
practice,
and
so
they
they
can be
don't.
rough.
And
They
it can be
rough.
rough. Yeah, and I actually like Coach Jones. His suggestion was like, have them come into a practice,
Right.
like
And
invite them
see,
to a
yeah.
practice and like tell them like sit up in the bleachers and watch and
Yeah.
see. And then if you still have an issue, like then let's talk.
Right.
So I was just curious, you know,
Yeah.
you're very you are very open, very real. So I just wondered how somebody like you would handle a parent confrontation. But
Luckily for me, I haven't had many confrontations.
that's awesome though.
But I do get I have a lot of older friends with
Okay.
kids that I'm coaching now, and and it's only happened like once or twice, but they expect me to treat their kid differently because of
Yeah, that
our
makes
personal
sense.
relationship.
Right. Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, but I
That's
tell them,
tough.
like, we have a contract that we signed at the beginning of the season. Once your name's on that paper, we don't have a personal relationship outside of this game, outside of the season.
Elaborate on that. What is this personal?
So
if you don't mind.
no. So there's practice rules. There's
Okay.
grades, communication, all of that. It's a team thing, and you get one at the beginning of the season, like I forget what they call it, but
And they have to sign it.
Yep.
Now if they don't, they're off?
No, it's I don't know if it's a school rule, but it's heavily recommended that we have like some kind of line of communication.
It makes sense. Like a standard of conduct almost.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That's not a bad idea too. I've been a part of schools that do that, and I've been a part of schools that don't do that. It's not a bad idea. So what happens in the event somebody breaks it, out of curiosity?
So there's
some levels
some
right.
kind of punishment, and I shouldn't say punishment, but that's the only word I can think of right now.
Right.
3 strikes always, depending on the situation and the communication.
Okay. That makes sense.
But it's like usually there's nothing that really ever happens because most people abide by it.
That makes sense.
So it makes it easier for all of us.
The thing about doing something like that too, to be honest with you, is like you don't want to be as a kid or an adult, but as a kid, you don't want to be like the 1 or 2 people that like mess up the contract. Like you're gonna be the one that messes up the contract out of all 12 or 13 of us. That's embarrassing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And maybe you have some kids who just don't care or whatever, but for the most part, like kids still today care enough to like not want to be the one embarrassed or in trouble, right? Or at least not want to look bad.
Yeah.
Even if they don't mind getting in trouble, they're at least like, I don't want to be the one blasted in front of the team.
Exactly.
You know, that's like in football, that's the old like old trick in the book where if a kid messes up, you have the kid who messed up stand while the whole team runs, and then the whole team looking at him, you know, or her like, oh wait, that's that sort of thing right there. So what this I'm going to alter this question a little bit because it wasn't quite your first year of coaching, but what did you learn about yourself as a person this year in coaching? That's a tough one.
It is.
I know it's a tough one. It's almost like a quick personal assessment.
Yeah. What did I learn about myself? Well, I've never been a patient person ever in my entire life.
Okay. I struggle with that myself.
This year I had to like exude patience because if I was too hard on the girls, it shut them down. Like, and that all of my coaches in the past, they, you know, hard on us, strict on us, all of that.
Right.
So I have been coached by coaches that are just sticklers
that
for the
kind
game.
Of way.
Yeah.
100%.
So I had to adjust, and the adjustment was hard for me because that's what I'm used to, you know? So adjusting and being more patient with the girls was really.
So would you say that was kind of your style and then you had to adapt it? Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah.
More kind of disciplinary, old school?
To an extent, because and I hate to say, I'm too lazy to be that strict. But like I do have like certain things like when we're running or something, like your foot has to be behind the line.
100%.
If I see your toe on the line, we're running again. Like that kind of thing. Because that's the difference between an overtime win and loss.
Yeah.
Like that kind of thing. And they would always look at me like I was crazy. And I was like, it'll make a difference. Trust me. It might sound stupid now.
It does.
But it makes a difference.
It does. That's the same philosophy that Bronco brought up, a philosophy and it's kind of the same thing as how my brain just connected it. Is he said when he was training in his prime, he found reasons to go to the gym. When he was out of his prime and getting ready to want to hang it up, he started finding reasons to not go to the gym. Right. And it's kind of that same thing in a way. How do you measure success?
Well, I used to measure success in winning, which still to an extent, but
should still be part of it to a degree.
But I've learned with this team and my last few middle school teams, that it's about growth.
Yeah.
Growth. So you can lose every single game that you get out there, but as long as you bust your ass and you know that you've given 150% at the end of the game, I'm good with it.
Yep, 100%
I'm good with it.
Agree.
As long as you feel like you have left it all, then
because in a situation, you said 6 girls that have never played. So in that situation, like you, Coach Henry Jones, again, always says this, there's no substitute for like experience. There's nothing you can do about that. Yeah. So like for you, like you have to just go through it, and there's no way around the development part. Like there's no skip forward button. So if you do go 0-9, 0-12, 0-6, 1 and whatever, it's like I went 0-6 in middle. We went 0-6 middle school football last year, and I told the guys every week, I said, if we get better week by week, I don't care. Like I don't even count the records in my eyes. I don't have a record in middle school football. A, it's middle school football is for development, and B, it's not important to me if we learn. If by game 1 to game 9 or 6, whatever, if we look worse, then I have a problem. Then it's like, okay, what am I doing or what are we doing? First I'll check myself, our staff, but it's like, what are we doing? But if it's like for us, it sounded like the same way you guys had, where we had some moments, but it seems like it, for the most part, gradually got better. And I think there's just no way around the development part of it, right? So it's hard. I find myself in the same boat as you, because I do think to a degree, like we still have to teach kids how to win, because it's like, yes, the relationships are more important. I'm not, so like, don't clap back at me, anybody. That people want to, how people are these days. They'll be like, Coach, you said winning's most important, and you don't care. People say anything. the kids are always most important. That's why, I mean, shoot, we feed them, we take them to places, we
Right.
hang out with them, all these different things that are putting in way more time than we're actually practicing, right? But they have to learn how to become winners, because that's part of our society that's starting to get lost, is
Right.
like people are accepting mediocre, they're accepting losing, they're accepting being underneath the person ahead of them. And I think to a degree, like, we have to start fighting that. And so I love coaches that put the kids first, and I obviously consider myself that type of coach. I also know that to a degree, coaches like us also understand, like, we have to win some damn games so that they know how to do it.
Right.
Now, like with situations like us last year, maybe that's a development season and you just don't have a choice,
Right.
because 6 new people, that's half of your basketball
Right.
team. Out of 22, I think I had 8 first-time football players. I mean, that's, 35%,
right.
something like that of the team. So, but now you expect them girls to start competing next year and start doing some
Right.
things and, that sort of thing. But I think that's important. I don't knock you for saying, being assessing yourself and being honest. And I also don't knock you for saying, well, I know I have to switch some things. I also know winning is important, because I think it is. And I tell our kids, like, you get the job or you don't. You when you're in business, you either are the one that's making money or you're not.
Right.
Like, there's still a clear cut, we still live in a capitalist society. There's still clear cut winners.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't, that's the way it works. You have to do that,
Right.
if you get what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
no.
So this is something we've talked about over and over again, and it's something that bothers me about our community. I came from downriver, obviously, and I think the downriver schools do a great job at this. I think we lack a little bit in our community. How important is it to you to improve our branding of local sports teams and our student athletes?
I think we need to put more emphasis on the student part of the athlete. Because we have the kids out there that know how to play. But we get to a certain level and a certain point with a lot of these kids. And grades matter throughout it all, but I think they put more emphasis on the athlete part. And these kids, they see the LeBron James is coming straight out of high school, or the Imani Bates type of kids.
Yeah.
And they think that that's the way to go. And I will say it, I was a horrible student growing up.
Honest assessment, at least. Again, you're an honest person. I respect
and
it.
I
wasn't the best myself.
And like my family, they tried to stress the importance of grades. But I was in my own world, I was
right.
All over the place, being a teenage girl, and
definitely understand.
Yeah. So I mean, I kept my GPA up enough to make sure that I was, but I didn't have someone as far as academics to look up to be like, this is what you need to do.
It's interesting. You're saying there's not enough academic role models.
Yeah.
Especially in sports.
Yeah.
No, that's very interesting. I think the important message too, and I'm not, I think it's hard to it's hard because I remember when I was a student athlete, I thought for sure I was going to college to play ball and I was this and that. And it's hard because when you're young, you're working, you're confident. But the reality of being Amani Bates or LeBron is like less than 1%.
Right.
It's like 0.000. Those are like generational people that, and I know we all should be confident in ourselves, but at the same time, I think you have to understand that there's certain people that's generational type of athletes. Those guys that's one in billions. That doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen often.
Right. Yeah. That's a person that LeBron's a guy that's played 22 years or some crazy shit in the league now and been still balling, scoring 30 a game. Like, oh, ain't nobody doing that. That's not real.
No
like it's really not realistic, to be honest.
Right.
But I think that's actually a cool answer, to be honest. That's not the answer I expected at all on that question. Because from my angle, I think me personally, I don't think we brand our sports teams, our student athletes enough at all in any of the facets. Like, I don't personally think Now, I think certain things like JJ Sports Video and actually the Brain Jerk guys have started to get involved in doing that. And now, shout out to MCSN, the Monroe County Sports Network. They've been starting to do it. It's starting to.
Right.
So don't get me wrong. I don't want anybody out there to feel offended because I know them guys are working and doing amazing things. And it's starting to become that. But until like MCSN and Brain Jerk and all these people that just started going to do this stuff, like nobody was here before that. Them people had to step up and like do that for the community. So it was even there. And, you know, like MCSN is all over the community. And, you know, Josh he was at our football games and he was at airports games and he was at, he's got games planned for next year. And like, these guys are starting to do that stuff. And, you know, with us at Mason, we're starting to make our football program and our programs really cool to be around. But I think the student part is huge. Do you have any ideas how can we do that? How can we make our student cool? How do we brand that and make it go, damn, I want a 3.0?
That's a great question.
You know, that's a tough one for sure. Because
kids don't want, and I shouldn't say they don't want to be the cool student, but it's hard for a lot of kids who play sports to think that it's cool to be a good student and a good athlete, and it be not, like the labels in school really kind of
makes it hard.
Yeah. So I mean, like you could get a 3.5 or 3.0 and still be, a 2-3 sport athlete and it'd be there, but like you don't, and like in my experience, like we didn't have anyone to be that
makes sense
kind of person. But I mean, like there were people there, but it was never, broadcast or made
to be cool.
Right.
What about what about, we always post like, well, we got to hit a guy that PRs or a girl that PRs, right? And we post the shit out of it.
GPA so-and-so got a...
What if we just like, because, to get recruited for the most part, like you have to have decent grades.
Yes.
Like, yeah, there's some schools that might recruit you with a 2.5 or whatever, but for the most part, you have to have good grades. Right. I almost thought off of your ideas of, and I never thought of this, but it's almost like, what about like the offers that kids get and just more than, hey, look, Northwood or Concordia or EMU offered you. How about like they offered you in partial because, you carried a 3.0. Right. Congratulations. I think stuff like that could even help. Just little social media posts to say congratulations to Terry, who, got a 3.5 and, that was a heavy contributor to his offer from, so-and-so university. I also think one thing that was cool, we're all, and I'm sure Monroe, I've seen your guys' weight room, and I'm sure the locker rooms and everything. We're big on like wall stuff, right? Like big quotes and cool pictures. And I saw something at Eastern Michigan, and you let me know your thoughts, and it was super cool. It's in their football hall, but on the wall they have all their bowl game wins and all their accomplishments. But there's one section where it has anybody that's ever played football there that's had a 3.0 through their whole career, and it's like a big 3.0 GPA wall. And it's beautiful. It's not like some cheap. It's like plex or nice glass and like engraved in, and it's awesome. And it's like they add to it. Yeah. But I think stuff like that would be, just because you said that, and then I thought back to Eastern, and I'm like, that'd be great ideas to kind of.
Yeah, we need to boast the student part just as much as we do the athlete part.
So I wasn't going down this rabbit hole today, but we can for a minute before we go our last few questions. So what do you think about the direction then? You seem big on academics. What do you think about the direction that NCAA athletics are headed then, where it kind of seems like we're starting to separate sports from, I know we're talking about almost like at football at this point, they're almost talking about like moving it to where the football team is like associated with the university, but the players don't have to go there type of deal. And stuff's kind of getting crazy, to be honest with you, when it comes to like college and all that. Do you think we should go back to how it used to be type of deal?
Honestly, I'm going to be 100%. I don't really keep up with college, but, I know like with player contracts and all this, like I feel like it takes away from the team aspect of a lot of things. So
That makes sense.
people walk around with this, golden star,
Mm-hmm.
just like I don't.
Yeah, or a nice car.
Yeah,
or
like I don't think it does the right thing for what they're trying to do as a team.
I agree. I definitely agree with that. I think it destroys your team. I also just think that wasn't the point of universities and colleges. I think to me it should just be earned. I know
Yeah.
because I know some people who have like gotten on football teams, scholarships earned because they were a subpar football player, but they worked hard
Mhm.
and they got great grades. And
Yeah.
like a lot of people might not know this, and I'm just going to spill some truth, and you like it, love it, hate it, whatever, but this is just the reality. Coaches will recruit certain kids in college just to up the team GPA.
Yeah.
And that's a real thing. Like they'll put a kid on a university roster just because the kid's got like 3.8. He might not play or she might not play, but it's like that's going to boost our team GPA. They probably work really hard if they have a 3.8 GPA. So I think it's super important for us to kind of, I hate to say it, but like revert and go back to like prioritizing like that scholarship and that degree. I think is like important.
Yeah.
So you named somebody earlier, but we try to stay away from like ESPN sports headline stuff. We always like to get like a fun one in there and talk about something fun. Who's your GOAT of women's basketball, coach and player?
Oh.
And it could be college, it could be NBA, WNBA. But who's your GOAT?
Honestly, Lisa Leslie.
Lisa, that's kind of what I thought you might say.
Because growing up, her and Cheryl Miller, like they were the two that got me excited. And I will say, like, I didn't watch a lot of WNBA, but I would think that I played a little bit like Tim Duncan. So Tim Duncan's was one of my favorite players.
Mr. Fundamental, or the big fundamental.
Yep, him and Dirk Nowitzki, like, yeah.
Oh, Dirty Dirk too?
Yeah.
Yeah, them guys were them because that, and I'm not hating on your sport at all, but that was when basketball had a little bit of grit and defense and fun to it. Today's game,
it's soft,
but I can't say it ain't the same in football. Like
it's soft.
So like people come at me, they're like, football's soft too. I'm like, buddy, like I know, like I'm advocating for both sports to get back to its roots, like because it's bad. It's bad. Some of it is hard to watch. Like I'll watch March Madness, and I'll even watch like maybe the NBA Finals because I'm like, shit, y'all gonna care when the championship's on the line. I know that, but
it's hard to because nobody wants to play defense
anymore. Ever at all. Like it is completely lost.
And like the 03-04 Pistons, my favorite team of all time.
Because the second coming of the bad boys. Yes, them guys were just like them. They were built just like the bad boys.
Yes. And like I think that like once they started, redrafting and losing that fundamental unit, like I watched basketball until about, I say like when Golden
when the Warriors,
when they started their reign, like I couldn't do it anymore.
Those Pistons were my favorite. Rasheed Wallace is actually probably my favorite basketball player ever. And I don't know. A lot of people hated on him because he's a talker, but I love the passion. I love the intensity. Rasheed was the man.
My grandpa, rest in peace, granddad. That was his favorite team also. So my grandpa was the guy who like he pretty much forced me to play. I was done. Like my sophomore year, I was like, yo.
And he was inspired by them Pistons.
Yeah. So he had a big, huge boisterous voice. And if you spent any time in any gym in the early 2000s when we were playing, you knew my grandpa coming through the gym. He was always a ball don't lie type of dude.
Right.
And to this day, I get referees and old coaches that I played against like, man, he's missed. But yeah.
I love it though. Yeah. Love it. That's awesome. Rasheed was he brought it together.
Mm-hmm.
He brought everything together, and that's awesome that you had that family connection to basketball in general. But that team was so damn special. Yeah. And I know like people call us biased because we're Pistons fans,
Yeah.
but I'm like, no. I
No,
don't think
they
you
were
guys
different.
understand. Like, they held like 10 plus or something crazy teams under 70
Yeah.
points. Like, that team was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I think what happened, you said about the gel, and what happened was like it was when Chauncey got traded for Allen Iverson, and it was just the fact that, like, yeah, I get it what they were doing. They were clearing up cap space for the next season, and they went and signed, I think, Ben Gordon and Charlie V, and it didn't work out. But the whole, like, I just hated it. I hated the band getting broke up.
He wasn't the replacement that they needed.
No,
like he wasn't,
not at all.
Because love AI, but he wasn't Chauncey.
What they needed to do was eat it for a few years, in my opinion, and go find a young Chauncey.
Yeah.
They just need to go find somebody younger that wasn't going to put up as much because he's younger, but somebody that played similar to that style. Because that team was so, like I said, just gelled. It was perfect. Definitely probably one of my favorite teams of all time, to be honest. So there's a conversation that we're going to have before we get out of here, Coach. Outside the box conversation. Every week we try to think outside the box to end it. I try to pick brains apart. Something in your sport. This is your lane, your sport. So a couple of years ago, you might remember at the NCAA tournament, the girls showed up and the weight room had like middle school weight room in there, and they sent out a bunch of complaints, and the NCAA looked like an ass, and kind of like they should have looked like an ass because they were for it, but they kind of like tried to fix it real quick and cover it up and everything else. But some of that and the attendance in women's basketball and different things, I think, could be kind of fixed or improved, so to speak. So how do we expand women's basketball, get attendance up, and grow the sport?
I just think that in a whole, that the world needs to appreciate women more. Because
so it's just deeper, deeper level.
Yeah. So I'll use my experience, like in high school, like all the girls teams, we were winning the districts, the regionals, and all this, and our boys teams, were barely making it. I'll say our football teams were barely making it to playoffs. Like, so the appreciation for women in general, I think, would be a game changer in itself.
Here's maybe a little bit of a crazy question. Is it the appreciation? How do I phrase this? Is it the appreciation for women? Is it the appreciation for what women accomplish, or is it both, you think?
I think it's a little bit of both.
A little bit of both.
Because men have
You speak the truth.
Men have weak egos in some instances, and I think that I don't
disagree at all.
Hard for them to be like, oh, Susie so and so was, ran this. Yeah, they
excelled.
Yeah, better than John so and so. Oh, this isn't good. Like, what can we do to make John better instead of what can we do to make Susie's situation more exciting for her, more exciting for her teammates, more exciting for the younger kids below her. So we protect male ego more than we promote female excellence, in my experience.
Okay. No, you're not gonna get any type of like. You might get me. I might question things just to keep picking your brain apart, but you won't get any. Everybody's experience is their experience, right? And I don't have any clapback against that. So, but I will ask you this: so, what are some ways in society? Like, what are some ways we can do that? Like, what's some ways that men or women or people in general today can do that for women? Like, what do we?
I think everyone just needs to get over themselves. Like, it's.
That's some damn good advice. That's some damn good advice.
I mean, it's easy to say, but as soon as you realize that it's not, and I am guilty of this, that it's not about you all the time in every situation, and that it's enough space in this world to clap for Susie if you're John and
That's
her.
Big.
Like, it's okay to clap for your opponent, or like it's just, we just need to just stop.
this is just my opinion too, and you can
Mhm.
clap back. You can tell me what you think, and people out there can clap back. I don't really give a shit, but just to be honest, but I think too, men, a lot of times, like we look at men as objects of success,
Mhm.
and that's kind of what we judge a man on. Like, does he wear nice clothes? Does he have a nice car? What's his status? All these different things, right? And I think to a degree, like I think that's part of why like you maybe get more of that where it's like, oh, he hit a PR today. Awesome, man. Great job.
Right.
Because I think men to a degree like think it's weird. I think like people just think men are like objects of success. So
Yeah.
it's like I gotta cheer him up if he or I gotta cheer him on if he does something great.
Yeah.
And I think like we don't see women like that, and it's weird a little bit
Right.
because it's like women are very successful too, obviously,
Mhm.
in a lot of facets, in freaking sports, in writing, in
Right.
music, and everything.
Right.
Like, and I think to a degree, like that's one thing in society that I think could keep transforming is like women are typically like looked at for like their beauty,
Right.
inside and out, but their beauty. Men are looked at a lot to success. That's just my experience, how I, have experienced
Right.
it. And I think bringing those things to both sides,
Mhm.
I think that helps a lot. I think,
Yeah.
people letting men know that, it's all good. You can talk to, because men also feel like, we can't talk to people necessarily, or we're
Mhm.
deemed weak or whatever. I think so. I think for men and people to uplift women in the way of like their their success,
Yeah.
great job cheering them on. Hey, the women's basketball team had a great game last night.
Right.
It was
Right.
awesome. Let's get everybody in the gym this week,
Right.
make sure we pack it Thursday for their next game because they kicked their ass Monday. I think those two things kind of crossing over. That's just
Yeah.
my opinion
No,
too.
you're right, because it definitely needs to be more balanced, and people, they get, well, women want to do what men do. It's like, no, like we don't want to be, we don't want to the hardcore crazy
Go out
jobs.
and
Like
build
we
build
just,
roads and
yeah,
shit.
no, no. I mean, I'll stand there with the heels and stop sign. Don't get me wrong, but like it definitely does need to be balanced, and like certain jobs, and like it does need to come
Definitely.
to a more level,
I think so.
and I feel like the world would be a better place if women didn't have to feel like they had to fight to get to the top, and men, when they failed, like they didn't feel like that it was the end of the world
That
type of
last thing
thing.
you just said, we're gonna play that one on repeat a few times. That was good though. No, because that was 100% the
Yeah.
truth though. That was like both ways. That was straight facts.
Yeah.
If we could balance that out a little better, I agree.
Yeah.
I think people would be a heck of a lot
Yeah.
happier because I honestly, we have a male, a female on here. We're talking. We both know what what people are feeling these days and those sort of things. And I think, yeah, that's a great note to kind of leave the show before we get out of here. But that's a great thing to leave it on, is just something deep, and that's awesome. I think we like I said, we need to, and when you guys do make it, I think we need to do a better job at, like you said, at cheering you guys
Right.
on it and making it a point to go, hey, look, you just became a CEO of a company, or you
Right.
just got a scholarship to go
Right.
play basketball, or you just did this. Like,
Right.
because I do agree, when I was in school, it was my same experience. We could, in sports, we could have the worst season ever. They could have the best, and our gym would be packed for
Yeah.
us, right? But it's like, and I think we need to do a better job at just like making, as far as sports go, this is just
Yeah.
sports. This is not as deep as what we were talking about, but just sports. We just got to make it as cool as men's
Yeah.
sports. Like, we got to make it cool as shit to go to a WNBA game.
Right.
We got to have like, they need to be serving. I don't know what they do at WNBA games, to be honest. I'll go this year, but they need to make sure it's fun. Do
Yeah.
events there. Do things to draw people there. I think we need to invest in it like we do the men.
Men's, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely, because there's so many women in the WNBA that could probably outplay a lot of these guys
Right.
in the NBA, because they stick to the fundamentals and they stick to the the game like they're supposed to, but they don't get the recognition for it.
Fellas, that means start getting back to the damn fundamentals.
Please.
All jokes aside, but no, for real though, it is part of it.
Yeah.
And there's some stars in there. There's some like, and not just like WNBA stars. We're talking like Lisa was a freaking star.
Mhm.
you know, there's been college back. Pat Summit's like one of the most famous
Pat
coaches
Summit
ever.
Dawn Staley, like
Man, Dawn is the GOAT.
Yes.
Dawn might be the coach GOAT.
Yes.
I'm gonna be honest. Dawn
Yes.
is incredible.
Yes.
But there's all, I mean, and I'm not bringing up the crazy part of this, but like we were just like the number one news headline like 6 months ago was like Brittany Griner.
Yeah.
Was like a WNBA star was like the number one story. And obviously there was other things tied into that, but that just shows like there's still some star power and some girls in the WNBA that you could really feed into, because it's like it's even like the big channels. Like I'm glad we have you on talking women's basketball because ESPN's not going to do it. And that's why we counter ourselves to all the other podcasts and sports is we're not going to stick in one lane or be like that, right? We're not going to be biased and stay tight. We're going to open up and talk. And I think that stuff's got to get better. Podcast, us today, I think, you know, we can impact our little corner, but we need more places to cover it. I want to see how many I want to see how many points. I don't even know if she still plays, but Candace Parker's a GOAT too.
Right. Well, she's reporting now, but yes, no, absolutely.
So, and I'm like, I want to see Candace Parker report a game and talk about how many this girl scored, not just LeBron every single night.
Right.
I think that would help a lot too. So all right, that was a great show. That was a great conversation. Before we get out of here, we're gonna get a couple links. Coach, is there anywhere the people out there can message you or find you? Just anything social media wise?
Well, no, because I don't promote myself.
Okay.
Like I'm an end season kind of gal. But I have been considering private lessons. If I figure that out between my schedule and my son's schedule, then I'll put it out there. But
all right, so possibly stay tuned for that.
Maybe.
if you post it, I'll share it too and make sure it goes up on the link. Also, guys, I always say this every week. If you guys can get out to a basketball game next year, please go out and support Coach Mason and Coach Chae Small. And is there any other coaches on staff, or who y'all got?
Nope, it's just us.
Okay.
And our middle school coaches, Eric Roush and Demore Hampton, our 7th and 8th grade coaches. So yeah.
Awesome. Get out there and support a game. Obviously, basketball season ended, but when wintertime comes, make sure you get out to Monroe and see a game. You guys can find Kennedy Health and Wellness on Facebook and Instagram, Coach K Training on Facebook and Instagram. You can also find Brain Jerk Entertainment on Facebook and Instagram. Again, we appreciate these guys for giving us this platform every week. Coach, appreciate you for being with us. Next week, we have another huge show. Make sure you guys tune in. We have Wayne Memorial girls varsity basketball coach Jarvis Mitchell coming in next week. So big episode. Again, make sure you guys tune in every week. It's been a lot of fun. We're just going to keep expanding the show. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hope everybody has a great